Okay, so I think we can get started with this part. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spend some time talking about participatory photo mapping and how it's worked with communities in different community settings for different reasons. And so so that you'll be able to see how participatory photo mapping can work with different kinds of issues. And here are the steps. This is, and some of what I'm gonna be talking about is gonna be similar to what Dave talked about. We'll try not to repeat too much, but there are 4 basic steps where you work. You have your people in your community, the participants, and you give them a camera, and you have them document their experiences of health and place using digital photography. The second step is that you take the photographs and you turn them into a PowerPoint presentation. One of the handouts is how to do this quickly, and you project the images onto a screen like this and elicit dialogue from participants to help that information gathering and transfer. And then the narratives then become linked to the photos. And the third step is that the photographs and narratives are mapped using software. And as we've gone on in the years using this methodology, we've gotten better at doing this, but also we've realized that there are different ways of actually attaching all of these data to maps, and I'm going to go through some examples because some of it is pretty techy, using GIS and some software called GPS PhotoLink, all the way to using a Google map and having it be very community driven. Then the fourth step is that the insights are communicated to community organizations, so it's presentation to a diverse audience, and that can be us doing, the researchers doing the presentation, but ideally it's the participants doing the presentation to the audience members to create change and action. And so in my work, the work that I've done, my partnership building conceptual model includes working with public health practitioners. I worked at the health department for a number of years. I worked at the Department of Family Medicine where I met Dave. I've worked at the university setting. And so a lot of the work that I do is working with applied people in a local public health department that are actually doing public health on the ground. Physicians and clinicians, so doctors that work at local clinics and nurses. I've done a lot of work with nurses and doctors, and it's very, the medical models are different and the approach is different. And built environment professionals, and that would be people like urban planners or landscape architects, designers, people that are thinking about how the built environment is going to be laid out, and ideally community members, people that, stakeholders in the community that live in the community. And this is a little diagram that I like to use when I give talks. Does anybody recognize this? Is it a hat? Does anybody, has anyone read the book The Little Prince? Huh? So it's the little boy draws this picture and he brings it to some grown-ups and he says, "How do you like my picture?" And they said, "What's the big deal about a hat?" And he sighs and says, "It's not a hat. It's a boa constrictor digesting an elephant." And so this is why we talk to people in communities and why we engage people, is so that we don't see hats where we should be seeing boa constrictors digesting elephants. And as I go through my talk, you'll see how we can make lots of assumptions about the built environment and objective measures of the built environment, and think that we have an idea of what's going on, what's the story here. But then when we start to talk to the people that actually live in the community, we find out that we maybe have some of the story, but we certainly don't have all of the story, and maybe we aren't even right on at all. And that by talking to people, we can increase our own knowledge and help translate that information to make decision-making more effective, and also have stakeholder buy-in. So if you have stakeholder buy-in, your interventions or whatever it is you're doing, it's going to be more successful. So here's one aspect of one component, one tool of this method is a picture. And so what can we learn from a picture? And so if I was in a focus group setting or doing an interview, and this was a picture that was actually taken by a participant in a project, I would say to them, "Please tell me about this picture." So I'm saying to you, tell me about this picture. What is the story of this picture?
His bus stop. It's a lonely bus stop. No one there.
Looks like the morning.
Yep.
Looks like a vacant
Yep.
space behind.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a bus stop. It's winter. Looks cold. There's a vacant building behind it. When I showed this picture to the audience around this one particular project, this is not to read. You know how people sometimes have way too many words on slides. This is to make a point. This is all the dialogue that was elicited from that particular picture, and the audience was homeless people. And this is what I wanted to read you. This is more shelter than most. Most don't protect you from the wind, from the ice, from natural weather. They have those bus stops to keep homeless out of it. I'd get something and make it a home. Not enough seating. I have an electric wheelchair, but there's not much seating and there's not much shade. And then down here they say, they've changed the way the seats are so no one can sleep on them anymore. A little space, using arms to keep people from lying down. And I'll show you another picture later to sort of show what Madison has done to keep homeless people from lying down. So this is a really great example of how this picture means something entirely different to the person who took it than it does to us. And we didn't have the full story, but that a participant in this project looked at this picture and said, I could make that a home if I had some duct tape and some cardboard. This is a picture of a map that came from a project that I did, which I'm going to tell you about a little bit more, a different project. But maps tell stories too, and this is why we are assessing people, and we're assessing place, but we're assessing people as they move through their place. And so this has a story. And just a little, I don't know if you can see the little red dots on this map. Those are the GPS points, the waypoints. And so when a participant is given a GPS unit and walking around, this is how the satellites mark the route. The big yellow dots are photographs that are, so this is multi-layered already. And if this was a live ArcGIS map, I would be able to click on a yellow dot and the image would come up where it's taken, exactly in the exact location on the planet that the picture was taken. It would have the time, the feet above sea level, the latitude and longitude, and the name of the person who took the picture, and the date. But this is an example of how this map helped me learn that I needed to be asking different questions. I was working with some young people in a community in Madison. We were looking at safety, and this is a really interesting community, which I'll talk about a little bit more, but it has a lot of segregation. So a lot of, it was a pretty established community with a lot of home ownership. In the last 5 years or so, a lot of African-American families have moved in, and there's been a lot of single-parent homes, a lot of Section 8 housing, which is subsidized housing. And the established homeowners have been like, whoa, you know, like they're not even being quiet about their it's not even subtle racism happening. It's pretty difficult. And so the public health nurse found me and asked me to come and do this project with her. And when we were doing this project, we made this map, and I started asking the kids why they weren't going up into up into this part of the neighborhood, and they said, that's where the white people live, and we're not welcome there. And so I thought, wow, these kids live in this neighborhood, and this is their community, and there's an entire part of it where they're not going because they're not welcome. And I'll go into this more in a bit to say what we're doing, what's happened because of this participatory photo mapping project.